if you wondered about the moral decline in the West, and not especially, but specifically in the United States, not especially, it's pretty widespread. This issue, the Gaza versus, or Gazans or Palestinians or Hamas, they're pretty much interchangeable, despite what people say. Oh, they're just, a minority of Palestinians, or a small minority. It's not true. Every poll, including Arab polls, is overwhelming majority of Palestinians love Hamas. This issue is about as clear an indication, as good an example as exists of the moral decline in America, that there are so many people who are either neutral or pro-Hamas or pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel. Has there ever been a case where the police state was rooted for and the free country was rooted against? Is there an example? Were there? Yeah, well, there was an example. I'm thinking really in real time here. There was an example. When my generation marched, and those who chanted "Ho, ho, Ho Chi Minh," or Jane Fonda rooted for the police state. It's one thing to have said, I don't think America should be in Vietnam, okay? That's not rooting. Well, in effect, of course, it was rooting. The effect was to be rooting for Ho Chi Minh and the mass killing, enslaving communists. But there were people who were enchanted with the communists then. This is a really important point because it gives you an idea of how deep the moral rot has been. If you can't tell the difference, if you couldn't tell the difference between communist North Vietnam and anti-communist South Vietnam, which was absolutely not a free country, but it was incomparably better than the communist North, we had, in 1953, the year surrounding 53, we lost 37,000 men in Korea fighting communism there in exactly the same circumstance, where you just had the North communist and the South anti-communist. The South was not democratic at the time. That's correct. It is now. It is one of the freest and one of the wealthiest countries in the world. You're probably using a South Korean phone or driving a South Korean car or using any of the appliances that they make. But there were no demonstrations on behalf of the communists, of Kim Il-sung or Mao in 1953. So you can date the manifestations of the moral decline in the United States to the years between 1953 and about 1968. In that 15-year period, a generation degenerated. And now you see the ultimate consequences. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Not just Middle Eastern immigrants and their children chanting that, but Native Americans, and I don't mean indigenous Americans, but people born and raised in the United States of America, who are not of Middle Eastern stock, as it were. Whenever people raise the question with me, and it's raised all the time, well, when did this start? I think it started actually in the early 20th century, but you can date it to between the Korean War and the Vietnam War. That 15-year period give or take a couple of years. That 15-year period is when the decline began, domestically as well, where the idea that the ideal situation for the vast majority of people is to make the nuclear family a married mother and father and children. That became, if you say that, you are now called a bigot at best and a hater at worst. We entered the don't make any judgments except left-wing judgments. When I was at undergraduate and graduate school, I remember so vividly the teachers saying, morality is a matter of personal opinion. Morality is relative. And then 20 minutes later would say the war in Vietnam is immoral. They thought, wait a minute, didn't you just say morality is relative? So why don't you just say, in my relative opinion, the war in Vietnam is immoral? But it's clearly not immoral because there's no such thing as objective morality. So what they did was they crushed, the left crushed, the progressives crushed normal moral norms, to be redundant, and substituted leftist norms. It's not like they don't impose moral categories. Of course they do. If you think that men who say their women cannot compete against women in women's sports, you are wrong. You're a hater. You're a transphobe. You're a bigot. Again, those kids in this high school, where was this high school? Was it New Jersey? Monarch High School. I don't remember where it was. Review a lot of items on the show. Anyway, they left class a second day to protest. It was in Florida, of course. It has to be in Florida. That's right, because there a male is not allowed to compete against females, and that's called a bigoted state because Ron DeSantis and the Republicans passed that law. Not a pro-woman state. No. Bigoted state. Bigoted against men who say they're women and compete in women's sports. Is that bigotry? It's an interesting question. Is that bigotry? You have to look up the word bigotry. It certainly is hostility. Yes, I am hostile to such narcissism, to people who deliberately wish to undo women's sports. That is correct. I have hostility. But I don't know if the word bigotry would be appropriate there. The moral categories of the pro-Hamas crowd, or even the pro-Palestinian crowd, which is indistinguishable at this time. Pro-Palestinian protesters, one carrying swastika, swarm Midtown in bid to derail Rockefeller Center Christmas tree lighting. The chutzpah of these people is unbounded. Our cause is more important than anything you do in America. Anything. We will raise the Palestinian flag all over the Christmas lighting ceremony. There is no arena of life that you are allowed to celebrate or enjoy, Americans, that we won't screw up, that we won't disrupt. We are the center of the world. We are the only cause that matters. We are allowed to murder as much as we want, so long as the person we murder is a Jew. They've already murdered mass numbers of Christians. As I have announced all of these years, the world didn't give a damn, truly didn't give a damn. I'm not even sure that much of organized Christianity gave a damn. The number of Christians killed by Muslims in West Africa, I'd love to see the number. What a world, what a world. Moral clarity is deficient.